Good evening and welcome to the World News Trust Friday Newsdump. We're coming to you tonight from beautiful downtown Gaysville, Vermont, along the White River in the lovely Green Mountains. This is my partner, Greg Crawford. My name's Francis Goodwin. And let me tell you a little bit about the Newsdump concept. We're doing this Friday evenings. We're going to be streaming this show, start about 6 o'clock each week, and go for a half hour or so to begin. The idea is we're going to do a summary of some of the news stories of the week, but our main focus is going to be, we're going to be looking for what stories might be, the powers that be might be trying to slip under the radar on Friday evening. Sometimes if it's an important news story that they know that they have to report the information, but they don't want too much attention, they'll put it out Friday evening, too late for the Friday evening newscasts, but so that by the time there's not many people watch TV on Saturday or Sunday, and by Monday morning, it's passed out of the news cycle, so to speak. So that's part of the idea of the Newsdump concept. We're going to start off with this is sort of a random selection of stories. These stories are from the Wikipedia, from their current events section, where they provide a summary of international stories each day going back for at least several years, and along with all the links to the background information. So it's a really wonderful resource. So that's where I've been getting this information this last couple of shows, these test shows we've been doing. So I'll just start off with what was happening last Friday. So this would have been a week ago tonight. Off Somalia, pirates released a Greek-owned oil tanker along with 26 crew members for a reported ransom of $9.5 million. These 26 crew members had been held hostage for 10 months. And then on Saturday, the next day, Somalian pirates released a UAE-owned chemical tanker along with its crew of 20 for an undisclosed ransom after being held hostage for over a year.
It's interesting to note that there has been very little said about why the piracy has mushroomed off the coast of Somalia. And one of the things that I've read that I thought was intriguing was the fact that a great many companies have used the oceans off the coast of Somalia as a dumping ground for toxic materials. So it has basically destroyed the fisheries that the Somalian fishermen had traditionally counted on for their livelihood and to feed their children. And now all of these fisheries are dead and gone. So they said, all right, you're going to, kill our livelihood. We're going to mess with yours too. It's not that quite a cut and dried situation, and piracy is never a good thing. But it does give you a little perspective on what might have motivated some of these people to do what they're doing now.
Yeah, Greg, I'm going to look into this more for next week's show. But there's definitely more to this story than meets the eye. It's more than just bad pirates and good corporations that are being exploited by these bad pirates.
Good corporations? Okay.
No, there's a backstory like you're talking about, and these pirates are desperate. They're men that have no other alternative besides what they're doing. They're not doing it out of like insane greed. They really are driven by desperation. It'll be interesting to know more about that. In North Korea, this is an interesting story that I really can't begin to understand, and I'm not even going to get into Dennis Rodman. But North Korea ended all peace pact with South Korea, and closed the main border crossing inside the Korean demilitarized
zone.
Mr. Pronouncer. North Korean generals affirmed that they are aiming their long-range missiles at the United States mainland in retaliation for the recently approved UN sanctions. Monday, North Korea broke the 1953 armistice with South Korea and cut the phone line between the two countries. That must be like the bat phone or something between.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
North Korean officials said that the army was ready to attack at any given order. Wow.
North Korea has a standing army of over 1 million men. The rest of the population can be starving. They're eating bushes and dirt, literally eating dirt, and the army gets treated very well, as do all of the politicians, and especially pudgy little pukes like Kim Jong-un. who I think is just trying to strut his stuff here so that he looks like, a big man in front of all of
Uh-huh.
the military advisors that he's got surrounding him, trying to tell him what to do. And that's a big stretch for somebody who's what, 5'4".
Uh-huh.
He's got a problem there. So the little Napoleon complex is probably working big time on that.
So on Wednesday, North Korea confirmed it had shredded the 60-year-old Korean armistice agreement that ended the Korean War, and warned that the next step will be an act of merciless military retaliation. Now, Greg, I think one of the things that's interesting about this Korea story is, just like other stories, there is another side to it, or the fact that North Korea supposedly is one of only 3 countries remaining in the world that don't have central banks underneath the Bank of International Settlements and the World Bank. In other words, along with the Federal Reserve, the Bundesbank, the Bank of Japan, the big central banks. So one way to look at this, or one perspective, is to understand that they're trying to be pushed around by countries that do have these big central banks.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little sidelight there.
And the bankers definitely call the shots. When the bankers say jump, every government on the planet says how high on the way down.
Former Barclays chief Bob Diamond is about to be paid $3 million a year after he left the bank following the LIBOR rate fixing scandal. Won't get into the LIBOR scandal right now, but probably the biggest scandal in the history of the world. Trillions and trillions of dollars.
And he's getting a bonus for getting caught at it.
Yep.
So what does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen?
Following the state funeral of former president of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, Vice President Nicolas Maduro was officially sworn in as interim president. And on Monday, Maduro filed papers to run in the presidential election April 14th with, let's see if I can pronounce it, Enrique Capriles Radinsky running as an opposition candidate. Russian scientists said that they found a wholly new type of bacteria in the mysterious subglacial Lake Vostok in Antarctica. But then by Tuesday, the mysterious life form turned out to be a false positive resulting from contamination.
And it's interesting that they've been working on this for years, because they're having to drill through 6 miles.
To 6 miles?
Ladies and gentlemen, miles of ice to get to this lake that is in this the basin underneath all of Antarctic ice, and the contamination that, how the hell did they manage that?
I know that was one of the problems with it. It's a shame that they were going to contaminate this pristine.
Well, just the mere fact that the thing came through the ice and touched the water at all probably contaminates it. But how would you sterilize a drill bit?
I don't know.
That would be going down there. That'd be a tough one.
Yeah.
But still, the fact that they managed to reach it at all was probably going to wind up having some significant information, coming as a result in the future. So, but a lake 6 miles under the ice, like, wow.
Indeed. In Syria, rebels freed 21 United Nations peacekeepers who were held captive for 4 days. This is Saturday. At least 19 people were killed by 2 suicide bombings in the Afghan capital of Kabul. As Chuck Hagel, the United States Secretary of Defense, visited the city, a Nigerian militant group announced that it had killed 7 foreigners who were being held hostage. A house fire killed 5 children and 2 adults, including a pregnant woman, in the Gray community of Knox County, Kentucky. The cause is undetermined and under investigation. 1 man was killed and 5 others were injured after a sailboat broke up and sank off San Clemente, California. In Copenhagen, Denmark, 3-time best restaurant in the world winner Noma was accused of giving 63 customers food poisoning.
That wasn't
Yeah, I wonder what it costs to eat there. It's probably like $250 to eat there.
Oh.
If you can get a table.
Yeah.
You'll probably be able to get a table real easy now.
I wish I had more background on that. I'd like to know what had the food poisoning in it.
Oh, maybe it was horse meat.
Yeah, that's the big scandal.
Could have been. Google is to pay a $7 million penalty. That seems pretty dinky for Google. To settle an investigation into the collection of emails, passwords, and other sensitive information sent over wireless networks from 2000 and 2010 in the United States. What?
7 million? That's nothing to
I
them.
know. This is a camera lady commentary. This is my lovely wife Deborah providing camera person commentary. Google company cars were taking street level photos for its online mapping service, and also have been vacuuming up personal data transmitted over wireless networks that weren't protected by passwords. On Tuesday, Google
Oh no.
well, I think I've got a duplicate story, so I'm just going to skip that. It may be that they agreed to pay another $7 million for a similar thing. That's what I thought it was, but now I'm thinking it might be the same thing reported twice. An Egyptian court reaffirmed death sentences for 21 football fans for their role in a 2012 stadium riot, and sentenced 2 security officers to 15 years in jail for negligence. NASA's MRO spacecraft provided images allowing scientists for the first time to create a 3D reconstruction of ancient water channels below the Martian surface. That sounds so cool. That
Canals? Is it
yes,
canals?
water canals. That there really were water canals, and I should have tied
There
this.
was a Venice on Mars. Huh?
Yeah. There was another Mars story here I had meant to tie in. I'm going to get to it maybe next after the break, but. They think the evidence, I guess these water channels are further evidence that there may indeed be life on Mars, or may have been life in the past, which is just so totally cool. A newly observed near-Earth asteroid, 2013 ET, with an estimated diameter of about 100 meters, passed within 960 kilometers of the Earth's surface.
Whew, that's nothing.
Weren't you explaining to me about how far the moon is versus how far?
Well, let's see. The moon is 250,000 miles away, and the average satellite, communication satellite, or whatever satellite you get via Direct TV or your Dish Network or whatever, they're about 20 miles up. They're well up there. They're well up there. Maybe it's 20,000, but it's a bunch of miles. The thing is that this little thing came flying between the Earth and the average satellite orbit, so that is a little bit too close for comfort. And there's been a few of those recently, and it makes me wonder if they're just sort of softening us up for the big one and saying, guys, guess what? Don't buy any green bananas.
Like some movie with Morgan Freeman as president.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There's been at least 2 movies with that plot.
Right,
Yeah.
the comet's gonna hit or something, right?
Bruce Willis goes and decides to blow the asteroid out.
And they always come in the same year.
That almost destroyed Bruce's career. And he was.
His most recent movie.
He's-
Die Hard and Grow Up or something like that.
Well, that brings us through last Saturday with the news summary. We're going to take a short break here so that we can fit this on a YouTube segment, and then we're going to come back with the second part of the News Dump, the World News Trust News Dump for Friday, March 15th, 2013. This is Greg Crawford, and I'm Francis Goodwin.